Is there unanimous consent, Honourable Member for Saanich-Gulf Islands, to add her words? Agreed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est un grand honneur pour moi de prendre la parole pour ces discours vraiment tristes, touchants. Je veux dire grand merci au Premier ministre pour son leadership dans cette excuse officielle. C'est vraiment important, c'est trop tard, mais c'est jamais trop tard pour faire de bonnes choses comme ça. Je veux dire un grand merci au chef de l'opposition officielle, le député de Rimouski, Nejet-Témiscouté des Basques, et aussi mon collègue, le député de la Pointe de l'Île. The facts have been canvassed well, eloquently, and movingly by all my colleagues. The reality of these facts have been summed up so well, but I must take a moment to thank the historians who make sure we know of the sins of our past: unbearable and unspeakable cruelty, blindness, callousness. We all wear the stains of this crime. I don't know if we'd know about it without the historians, Irving Abella and his co-author, Harold Troper, and I thank them for writing. None is too many. How hard that work must have been. Mark Twain once said, "History is written with the ink of pure prejudice, but one sits down to expose prejudice. When history is truth-telling, it leaves us knowing as a fact that our country had the worst record of any country that was a refugee-receiving country in that period." It's hard to recognize ourselves as Canada in this story, just as it's hard to recognize ourselves as Canada from ripping Indigenous children from their families and putting them in residential schools, ignoring the plights of people over the generations. So, because so much has been said and so movingly, I just want to focus on one aspect of this tragedy. I mean, it's not a coincidence, I'm sure, that the Government of Canada chose today for this apology, congruent as it is with the 80th anniversary of Kristallnacht. Tonight at Kalahit Beth Israel Synagogue, tomorrow at the congregation Emmanuel El in Victoria, people will gather to commemorate Kristallnacht, the first real manifestation of the evil of Nazi Germany in targeting Jewish synagogues and businesses and homes and smashing the glass everywhere throughout Nazi Germany. It was only 6 months later that those 907 German Jews boarded the St. Louis to get away. 6 months after Kristallnacht is when the St. Louis left port. How were we so blind and insensitive? But we were, and we know that that was only 80 years ago. And we have all said never again. We abhor anti-Semitism, just as we abhor racism in any form. But then we come up against Pittsburgh and the Tree of Life Synagogue. And I think we have come full circle in a pattern of hatred and human intolerance which is not yet eradicated. Because the Tree of Life Synagogue outside Pittsburgh wasn't only targeted by that crazed gunman because he hated Jews, it's because he hated Jews who helped refugees. That synagogue, Tree of Life, had a very active chapter of Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. They were helping raise money to resettle refugees now in 2018. And that's why that gunman posted notices ahead of time of the Shabbat for refugees held by synagogues like Tree of Life. The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society has existed for decades. Its current CEO, Mark Hatfield, had this to say, quote, "We assist refugees today not because they are Jewish, but because we are Jewish. The Torah requires us to intervene to stop these things that are being done by our government in our name. So that light that exists in the synagogues, where the moral code of the Jewish people says we take on a mitzvah, we take on a good work out of religious duty, and we do that work. That is the light that can guide us. And we must, as politicians, never turn a blind eye to any among us who would seek electoral advantage by opening the door a crack to white supremacists or neo-Nazis or any of those who would raise up again that hatred and fear advances their cause. We in this time see other so-called leaders, as my friend from the NDP said, there is a movement of intolerance on the rise. We see it globally in Brazil. We see it in the United States. We see that some people gave that gunman in Pittsburgh the idea that he had license. So when we say never again, we mean it not about history, we mean it about our present. We stand with the peoples of the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh as we stand with the 907 Jewish German citizens that we turned away to our eternal shame. We wish we could turn back the hands of time and be in Halifax Harbor on a million little boats that said, jump, join us, we love you. And so now we can only stand here and say, we are so very sorry.
J'aimerais remercier le très honorable Premier ministre, l'honorable chef de l'opposition, l'honorable député de Rimouski-Neigette, Mosquat-les-Basses, l'honorable député de la Pointe-à-l'Île et l'honorable député de Saint-Nicole Gulf Islands de leurs commentaires tellement éloquents et mouvants aujourd'hui concernant l'épisode terrible de MS Saint-Louis. How embarrassing it is that Canada turned them away. And for me, that they were turned away at the gates of my city of Halifax. And how important it is that we remember. Thank you. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie. Oh, excuse me. Reports. Good. Reports. Senate reports from committees. The honourable member for Yukon.